John, what's going on? It's 12:47, the great one. It's a great day to be great. You gentlemen, be the greatest version of yourself. Get your mind off the behind and create the reality that you desire. Brothers, check this out. Something just came to my mind. It's going back, I talked about the Cushing versus Virginia 1967. But something just came to my mind about the year later, 1968, right? Because I talked about it before. These sisters got basically their severance package, and they from divorcing the so-called black man in 67, and they can be free to talk to the white man and this, that, and the third, and brothers being in the permanent backup position, things of that nature. But here's a spinoff to 1968 civil rights movement, because I know, history buffs. Oh my God, and you're just young and blah blah blah. Listen, here's my take on the civil rights movement. Here's my take. Since 1967, so-called Sister Cushing basically got these women, the American black women, got their freedom papers from the black man in 67. 1968. This is why I believe civil rights was a thing. I know, because the oppression and Jim Crow and the Emmett Till kind of sparked and things of that nature. But I believe, this is my opinion, but I believe that the civil rights was an attempt to bring the black family back together due to what happened the year prior. This is my opinion. I believe that the civil rights was so so prevalent because a lot of men were basically trying to corral, to me, the black woman, trying to get them back into the fold with them. This is why I think brothers was going to so many different lengths, and the different things, and the hosing and the picketing and all the other stuff. Yeah, it was for the civil rights and for the basic human rights and things of that nature. But I believe it was the so-called American black man's attempt to bridge, to basically nullify what happened the year prior. So it was the black man's attempt. So because they didn't deal with, in my opinion, the brothers, grandfathers and great grandfathers didn't deal with that directly. So what happens is, when the civil rights kicked off, I believe that was the so-called American black man's attempt to nullify what happened a year prior in 1967. So it was to bring the families back together. But once these women, see, the thing is, we were getting traction. So 1967 happened, Cushing versus Virginia. Then a year later, then a civil rights kicks off. And the thing is, they're getting traction. We were getting traction. We were getting traction all over the world, all over the earth. Everybody was joining the civil rights. I mean, there were so many different people joining the civil rights, and brothers was getting traction. So the thing they had to see, with your government and these different people, what they did was they had to once again, they had to go back to the black woman, to the American black woman. They had to go back to the American black woman. Listen, American black woman, in 67, we had the Supreme Court change laws so you could be with your white man. So what happened in 68? Them same people, the governments and things of that nature, they went right back to her again and did what? They gave, once again, like I said before, they gave her the severance package. Then the whole the feminist movement kicked in. Then Margaret Sanger and them came in, and government assistance really kicked in, right? So brothers did all that. So brothers recognized what happened in 67, and I believe this is why the civil rights movement was so huge. Because it like, brother was out here. Listen, you guys know about the civil rights movement and Martin Luther King assassination and all that stuff. I mean, there was so much stuff going on in 68 and in the 60s. I mean, it was crazy. Right? So it's so the thing is, it was like the brothers attempt to deal with what happened in 67. This is my opinion. Yeah, I'm only 40 years old, and you were back. Okay, I get it. I get it. I get it. I wasn't there, and that was 50 years before my time, and all that. That was not 50 years. That was 68. I was born 13 years later, and all that stuff in 81. So yes, that's 10. A decade before my time. So yes, I wasn't there, but I'm just giving my opinion. Once again, the thing is, these older gentlemen are not going to tell you this. Our grandfathers, they might be, both my grandfathers passed away. My great grandfather, they passed away. So these older gentlemen are not going to say it. But I believe that the so-called American black man in 68, the civil rights movement was an attempt to nullify what happened in 67. This is just my opinion. You might not agree with it, but I believe this is what just came to me. I'm like, yo, that makes sense. So in 67, Cushing versus Virginia, the so-called American black woman got her papers to, she went to Supreme Court, had laws changed so these so-called ABWs can be with her so-called white man. And in 68, the year later, the civil rights was so big because it was an attempt for, I believe it was, there's, once again, we know what civil rights was about. But I'm just throwing another caveat saying that these brothers didn't want these women to leave. Even though that law being changed the year prior gave them the opportunity to be with the so-called white women and all that stuff, but these brothers didn't want the white women like that. I mean, the marriage rate back in the 60s, I believe, was like over 75, it was like 75%. So in 67, listen, I would try to do everything too to get these women. Listen, we've been rocking and rolling for a minute. So instead of dealing with the sister directly like they should have done in 67, that's just to me, that's just that female shouldn't even even gone to the Supreme Court to even have that done. But fine, hey, you women want to be, you want to be your own people, you want to do your own thing, and we're free and this, and we can do whatever we want to do. So the so-called white man and the black woman, boom, made it happen. But the brothers, see, the thing is, the American black man wanted to be with the American black woman. The numbers prove that in the marital rate back in the 60s. So the brothers was going hard with the civil rights movement because they were trying to keep the unit together. Yeah, we know what you did in 67, but listen, instead of dealing with you directly, we're going to deal with you indirectly. So boom, this is all the civil rights going on. So once again, the sisters had to come and assist. Because let's be honest, if civil rights didn't happen in 68, it might have gotten ugly. It might have gotten really, really ugly. Especially for the so-called American black man. You listen, this American black woman went to the Supreme Court hand in hand with her so-called white man and basically had laws changed so these women could be with her white man. If civil rights didn't happen, I don't know what history would have been. You just gave these women you just changed laws. This one female changed laws for everybody. I told you guys a couple vlogs ago that her doing that, changing that, Cushing changing, Miss Cushing changing that law in 67. Basically was like a slap in my grandfather and great grandfather. It was a slap in the men's face. It was a slap in our face. It put us in a permanent backup role position. And a lot of our grandfathers, they have much love for the so-called American black woman. They it is what it is. Hey, listen, we'll go with the program. Brothers didn't like it. I mean, I'm pretty sure there was barbershops and all over the place. These men talking about this situation. There was meetings and this, that, and the third. But hey, listen, okay. I mean, that's a huge blow. Think about it. That's a huge blow to any type of movement. You in the '60s. You already being oppressed. Like, why would you women put that nail in the coffin? Like, why would you do that? But to me, that shows the lack of respect that these women have for the men back in those days. You already being oppressed. Segregation and Jim Crow and picketing and sitting in the back of the bus and this. I mean, there was lynching going on. There was all types of stuff going on. Why would you, as a so-called American black woman, go to Supreme Court to have laws changed to be with the so-called enemy? You already being oppressed. So once again, was 67 the escape route? Like what's going on? Was 67 was that the escape route? Like, listen, women said, ABW's just like, listen, we're tired of being oppressed and we're trying to be on the bottom. Listen, I mean, hell, that could have been a collective thing. Cushing, the female Cushing was just the how you say, the face of it. But hell, they you don't know what type of meetings these women had amongst each other. For that female to be that bold to go in 67 hand in hand with a white man to the Supreme Court, to have laws changed that women so that so-called African Americans and white people can be together. And these men are out here fighting. These men out here being oppressed. These men can't even walk down the street without being harassed. And you got the you got the things, and you got so many different things going on. You got brothers out here fighting back, and the Black Panthers come out with their systems, and brothers trying to create this and create that, and a so-called American black woman in 67 goes to Supreme Court to have laws changed. So of course them brothers had to double down and that. Listen, that's how big a blow that was. If I'm sitting here, we being oppressed, and we got brothers out here fighting, we got brothers out here creating this and creating that. We're trying to police ourselves, and we're trying to be in dignity and this, and we're trying to vote, and we're all these different things going on. That these brothers they're desperately trying to gain control of the situation because they're constantly being oppressed. Then for that sister in 67 to sit there and go to the Supreme Court hand in hand with a white man, you know how much a slap in the face that is? To my grandfather and grandfathers and all the men 4 or 5 generations before me, you know how much a slap in the face that is? Really? Then the brothers had to double down. I mean, civil rights basically had to happen. Because if civil rights didn't kick off, I mean, God rest, Emmett Till, he, that situation with him and, him going down south to his parent, relative's house and that torture situation and, his casket and him, they opening up his casket and showing what he went through and the torture and all that stuff. I mean, it's just crazy. It's just crazy that this young man was only a teenager, whistled at the so-called white woman, was tortured. But the year prior, a sister goes to the Supreme Court hand in hand with the white man and nothing happens? But once again, we can't speak like this in the black community. We speak like this. This is blasphemy. You can't talk about the queen like that, really. All this oppression going on, 67, you get to walk hand in hand with a white man to the Supreme Court. But then a year later, you talking about, not even a year later, a young, 14 years old, whistles at a so-called white woman down south and gets tortured? Come on, man. So civil rights had to crank up. Civil rights, it was like, listen, If civil rights didn't happen, I mean, that's just I mean, ladies, do you understand how that would F with you? Do you understand how Cushing versus Virginia can mess with a man's psyche? You're trying to do everything trying to keep us together, but then a female goes. I mean, why didn't I honestly see? The thing is that I don't get. I get, Sherzad Ali and all these other women. Why didn't any of these women go to this female and say, listen, we're not about to do that? Why didn't my grandmother, my great grandmother, why didn't you females go to this female and say, listen, sister, we can't do that? Because that's the ultimate disrespect to your so-called man who's being oppressed every single day. Trying to keep things together, trying to build this and let's do this and boycott. And we gotta have things need to change. For this sister to sit up to go to the Supreme Court in front of the whole planet. That just makes me mad just thinking about it. Ain't no female, ain't no woman, ain't no group of women went to this female and say, listen, we not gonna do that. The whole planet sees that the so-called African American is being oppressed, but nobody went to that female and said, listen, don't do this. But she did it anyways. He did it anyways. But all of a sudden, we gotta have some goddamn respect. We gotta have some respect. Respect this and respect that. Are you serious? These men had to do civil rights. Because all these women were about to roll. All these women would have left. All these women would have left. Because they left anyways. Left anyways. That's crazy. Left anyways. Name another group of women that left her man on the damn battlefield. Nobody. But now all of a sudden, we gotta do them, and we ain't doing none of that stuff. Are you crazy? This is history. But see, nobody wants to talk about history in the black community. We shall overcome. Get stuff out of here. Then no group of women go to this female and say, listen, sister, you don't need to go to no Supreme Court to be with some white man. But then y'all get mad that one of us talks to a Becky. You get mad at us. But you had a whole group of men that was mad at her, but it doesn't matter. Then these brothers had to do civil rights because they're trying to keep the families together. God forbid if civil rights didn't kick off. We don't know what would have happened. But it happened anyways. That's crazy. And this stuff never gets talked about in the so-called black community. Oh, we gotta have respect. And man, no one might care about that nonsense. Let's deal with the facts. But see, that's just what's wrong with the American black community. They don't want to deal with the facts. That this female went up there to the Supreme Court hand in hand with her so-called white man. And took a picture with this dude. He's sitting up there looking like, yeah, I got your girl. Are you serious right now? But all of a sudden, we gotta have this respect. Now, we ain't gotta do none of that stuff, man. So you brothers keep doing what you're doing. This is why nobody wants to talk about history in the so-called black community. Oh, and chattel slavery and all that dumb stuff. But they'll never talk about 67. These brothers had to do civil rights. Civil rights had to get kicked off to keep the family together. Because in 67, the so-called black woman went up to the Supreme Court with the so-called enemy and got her divorce papers for the whole collective of women. So these brothers civil rights had to get kicked off, because if that didn't happen, God forbid these women would just walk straight out the house. You coming back home and your wife ain't there no more because she about to sit there and go to some white man? Wow! You got men coming home working hard, doing this, doing that, being oppressed. Can't even go down the street without being harassed by cops. Dogs being sicked on you, all types of foolishness. Brothers getting ran up on. Hey, bro, I mean, they making up anything. Oh, you to fit the description. Oh, okay, I'm walking home from work with my lunchbox. Oh yeah, any cop could roll up to any man on the street and be like, yeah, a black man. Okay, this cops out here just randomly picking men. Brothers out here getting all types of torches shot on the street. Brothers ain't doing nothing. But you mean to tell me that woman was bold enough to go to the Supreme Court in 67 with the so-called enemy that y'all keep talking about? This enemy y'all keep talking about, right? This enemy. The white man's the enemy. So you mean to tell me that this black woman was that bold to go to the Supreme Court with the enemy? But now all of a sudden we gotta come back. Shut the fuck up, man. Are you serious? Nobody would hear that nonsense. Ain't no apologies for that. Ain't no I'm sorry for that. Ain't none of this, ain't none of that. A whole bunch of, oh, you need to come back and shut the fuck up, man. Are you crazy? Men out here getting shot, hung, lynched, being mutilated. Brothers walking down the street in backwoods Mississippi, somewhere just getting grabbed up, head chopped off, the manhood chopped off. But all of a sudden, this woman goes to the Supreme Court in front of all you, men and women, went in front of the whole planet, and gave the black man the middle finger. Gave my grandfather and my great-grandfather and great-grandfather before that, you gave every last one of us the middle finger. My bad, man. I'm getting emotional, man. But now in 2021, you gotta come back to the community. Take care of these kids. Shut your ass up. See, if you older gentlemen ain't gonna say it, we gonna say it. Are you crazy? Female sat in front of the whole planet and said, I want to be with the so-called enemy. So these men had to double down in 1968 because the civil rights ain't happening. I mean, there'll be God knows how many women just walking out the household to be with some goddamn white man. But in 2021, you millennials need to just settle down. Hell no. Ain't no apologies to our grandfathers and our great-grandfathers. Ain't no apologies. To these women ain't never apologized. But if you with another woman, you can't handle us. Are you serious right now, fellas? You can't handle us. Gentlemen, are we serious right now? But this is not what's being discussed in the black community. Mm-hmm. The black woman is God. The black woman is God. The black woman is God. The black woman, really? The black woman is God? Really? Damn, so you in perpetual servitude to the so-called American black woman? Fellas? The black woman is God. The black woman is God. The black woman is God. Really? Really? Okay. You young ones need to respect elders. For what? Huh? Brothers out here just getting all types. I mean, come on, man. You get neighborhoods bombed on. I mean, hell, they bombed a neighborhood in Philadelphia that you guys probably don't even know about. All these different so-called black communities being ran through. After all that so-called history going on, this so-called woman is still going to go to the Supreme Court to have laws changed to be with the so-called enemy? Are you serious? So these men had to, like, civil rights had to kick off. It wasn't even a choice. Because your so-called rib, well, not here, your rib got the divorce papers from her daddy. Your grandmama and them got the divorce papers from my grandfather and great grandfather. Got the divorce papers. Putting the men in the permanent backup role. Straight slap in the face to the men who are out there getting tortured. Because ain't no so-called American black man has ever done that to no so-called American black woman. Ever! But it doesn't matter. You need to stick around for this jail track. You need to dead. You niggas ain't shit. Dusty. And that same attitude has been passed down for the last 50 some odd years. But now you get mad because you're talking to Becky. Well, hey, according to the law in '67, we can do that now. According to the law in '67, that you women went up to the Supreme Court hand to hand, had laws changed, so brothers like me 50 years later can now talk to Becky. What's the problem? Whoa. I know you're not getting mad. Because we sure enough could have our grandfathers sort of got mad back 50-something years ago. Or you get mad at me now? What? Me? Why you get mad at me? You get mad at him and him? Dusty. Well, Dusty, according to the law in '67, is about to talk to Becky now. What's the problem? See, this should have happened. What's happening in 2021 should have happened in 1967, in the 60s. If you're going to be with the so-called white man, your daddy, whatever, good riddance. You go your way, we go ours. But these men were that loyal. That makes me even more mad. Our grandfathers, great-grandfathers, they were loyal. Wow. They were loyal. Even to this day, 80% of so-called American black men still with the American black woman. 80%. Because 50% don't even have kids and not even married. So these 50% of men that don't have kids and not married, they still waiting around for you women. But y'all mad because anyways, gentlemen, I'm just another perspective. I don't care if y'all like it or not, man. That's just what it is. So yeah, civil rights had to happen because if it didn't, God forbid, these women just wouldn't be home when your grandfather got home. Like, share, and subscribe. Peace.